based on the conversation we were speaking on earlier, I think he can lay some framework for like literally like how we can go into increments with the solution.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna delve in a little bit deeper with this.
Dr. UMAR Johnson, are you on the phone right now?
Yes. Good morning, family.
Good morning.
Great morning, Dr. UMAR Johnson. How you doing, my brother?
All is well. Glad to be with you.
Yes. First and foremost, man, I wanted to bring this up because I'm from Brockton, Massachusetts, and I'm aware that your ancestor is Frederick Douglass, and Frederick Douglass has a garden at in my hometown, and they currently have like a banner up, speaking about his legacy, and I think this is like a sort of like it's going to start a conversation amongst members of the community who are not aware of your ancestor and how much he fought for our liberation, or what liberation we do have today. So I want to say I honor your walk, and I honor the torch that you're holding on right now, my brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. So Dr. UMAR Johnson, first and foremost, I wanted to ask you a question because in this room right now we have youth that are in the building that they're willing to learn more about themselves, at an age that is a lot earlier than me personally, to be honest. And I wanted to speak about the educational aspect of how how the youth are currently being taught by a Eurocentric system. You're coming in to build an academy. You're looking for support. You're looking for supporters and donations. I just wanted to lay it out for the people out there to let them know what your idealisms are and what your system will look like, for your academy, Dr. UMAR.
Yes, sir. Well, as it relates to the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey RBG International Leadership Academy for Pan-African Excellence, we're looking at this school to be a game changer. And by game changer, I mean this will be the first school of the 21st century that doesn't simply prepare black children to go to college. It will be a school that prepares them in the art of economic empowerment, acquisition, and development. We have over 2 million African Americans in this country with bachelor's and master's and doctorate degrees who cannot find employment. Because the other part of that college equation is after you graduate, no matter how well you graduated, you still have to find employment. Well, yes. We want to transition from employment to entrepreneurship, and not just entrepreneurship in the areas that we studied in college, but we actually want to transition to entrepreneurship in areas that are not taught in college. I heard y'all speaking a little earlier about real estate. Well, we will be teaching the principles of real estate to our high school students. We will also be teaching the principles of stock market investing to our young folks.
Yes.
Each one of them will have their own penny stock account, and they will be trading on penny stock so they can get acquainted with the system. We will also be talking about international investments, insurance, business plan writing, a lot of subjects that should be taught in high school and are not. And why not? The reason they're not is because the Rockefeller family created their own personal board of education to supervise the curriculum in America's schools, to control the textbooks that get accepted in America's schools. And to make a long story short, the reason why the Rockefeller Board of Education was brought into existence was to make sure that children would never be taught the science of large-scale economic enterprise to guarantee that the ruling families would always be in control.
Wow. This is very deep because, like through my experience in high school, and I can attest to, many of the listeners and, those who are in the room with us right now, going through that experience, it's just like a lack of, knowledge of self, literally, when it comes to the history, when it comes to the passion behind teaching, I feel like it's very important to, convince the students that, this is something you should be passionate about, and I believe that there's like a huge disconnect when it comes to teachers to the students. So, for this academy, I wanted to ask you, because this is sort of like a idealism that we can implant, ideally, into the public school system and also the charter school system. But, what is the idea of, a very engaging teacher who is willing to, literally break it down within this small period of time that they have with the students every single day? Like how would that look?
Well, within my paradigm, education can pretty much look the same no matter what the school is. Children do need to be able to sit at a desk and receive instruction the same way we sit at church or sit at a seminar to receive instruction. So that is not totally European. The first universities built on earth were built by African people, and students were expected to sit and learn. But the other part of that equation is that you should not be expecting students, especially boys going through puberty, to sit for 7 hours straight. That's the problem. In fact, in psychology, there's a social learning theory that tells you specifically that children learn better when they're interacting and learning with each other, as opposed to this every child for themselves mentality, which does grow out of Eurocentric thought. So I am of the opinion that boys should not spend the whole day sitting still, nor should the young ladies, but they should be given an opportunity for hands-on instruction. 70 years ago, you had an opportunity for hands-on instruction. You spent the morning taking care of your academic subjects, and you spent the afternoon taking care of your industrial building trade subjects. So after lunch, it would be auto shop. After lunch, it would be carpentry. After lunch, it would be plumbing. After lunch, it would be cosmetology. It would be woodworking. It would be masonry. But back in the 1970s, the United States government began to de-industrialize the inner city high schools. They took out the auto. They took out the carpentry. They took out the electric. They took out the plumbing. And they did that on purpose to make sure black males would not learn the skills that pay the bill. And beginning in the 80s, when they started mass incarcerating black men, they start going into our high schools and lying to every black child in the community, telling them that you have to go to college in order to be a success. Top 1% richest people in the world never go to college and don't even get out of their bed to earn their income.
Wow. You know, you're speaking to like an idealism that exists in many households, you know, where you know, after high school you go to college. Like it's like a linear idealism.
It's a rite of passage. We've made it a part of culture. We've made going to college a part of culture. And what we fail to realize is colleges are businesses. They are businesses. And businesses are all about what? Relationship. So the colleges, which is a business, has a relationship with another business known as banks, which has a relationship with another business known as government, that has a relationship with another business known as debt collection agencies. So they get the government to make it easy for you to qualify for the student loan, the home loan, the car loan, but we're going to stay with the student loan. The college accepts you into that. It is the bank that's giving you the line of credit, and right after you graduate, it's the creditors that are trying to collect on you before you even found a job. You get your first student loan bill the day after graduation. So this whole thing is a hustle. Higher education is a hustle. But let me clarify, because you have youth in the building. Am I saying that none of our youth should go to college? Absolutely not. Certain professions require a collegiate education. I am a psychologist and an educator. You cannot become either without a college degree. Engineering, law, medicine, pharmacy, social work, nursing, the list goes on. You cannot practice without college credentials. But the clarity is we should not be sending children to college who don't want to be there, because I'm coming across too many young folks who are simply there because they were told to go. They don't even want to be there. So they are accumulating lifelong debt by participating in a system that they never agreed to be a part of. Number two, children should only be sent to college if the parents know that they raised them with the self-discipline and self-control to be successful at college. Because a lot of our children drop out not because they can't do the work, but they don't have the work ethic and the discipline. Your mother isn't at college. Your father isn't at college. And if you don't wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning in Boston to go to your 8 o'clock class at the 12th grade senior, why is your mother spending $30,000 to send you down to Spelman or Clark? If you don't go to school in Boston, you ain't going to go to school in Atlanta. So we have to make common sense decisions. And the last and final piece is children should only go to college if they're committed to being the best in that particular chosen field. Because in America, there's no space for second place. And if you're black, there's really no space for second place. I'm coming across too many mediocre college students. They're graduating, but barely, which means they get shut out of grad school. They get shut out of certain job opportunities, because a lot of businesses now, they want to see your transcript to see the grades you earned. Not just the degree, but the grades you earned. So if you're not going to be the best, don't even waste your time.
Wow.
I actually agree with that 110%. I am one who started school. I started at Bridgewater State University. I was there for about 2 years. But like I said, I've been working since I was 16. I knew that's where my focus was. That's where I was hungry. I would go to work happy. I would go to school miserable. And it was just like going into college. I didn't know why I was there. Honestly, I couldn't say, but I knew I had to go in there and I knew I had to pick because it was what I was told I had to do. And not necessarily from my parents, but it was just because my mom, you know, she had me. She didn't go back till 10 years later, but she finished. It was her goal to finish. For me, it was just like my goal was to find what made me happy. And it was like being in school. I was amazing at school. Like, you know what I mean? I could do it, but it's just not what I wanted to do. It didn't make me happy. And I don't want anybody to feel like, you know, they have to finish it because, you know, I hate it that I'm 30 grand in debt now and I didn't finish, but it's just like, I found what made me happy and it was working and it was hustling and it was doing something that I love. And it's like, I still had to do a certain type of school, you know what I mean? I had to take a certain course and I still had to learn. I still had to sit down at a desk and do all that. But it was just like, I knew that I was doing it for something that I love, for something that I wanted. So it's like this pressure of kids having to go to school, not saying that they shouldn't, but it's just like, just wait until you know what you want. Just wait till you know what you want. That's the most important thing. You can save a lot of time. You can save a lot of money and you can save a lot of aggravation.
But I'll say one thing too that Dr. Umar Johnson had said that what I really appreciate about the academy that you're trying to instill is the fact that you want to instill entrepreneurship in that too. I feel like why is it that we're raising children with the employee mindset instead of like being like, you know, a CEO or a boss or owning your own thing? Why do we do that, you know?
Yeah, what is
it comes from slavery. It comes from slavery. It comes from slavery. It comes from that dependency mindset on European power structure. That's slavery. In slavery, you had no choice. You were given no freedom. Everything you needed came from the power structure. Your food, your clothing, whatever you needed came from the power structure. Although slavery ended 152 years ago, we're still suffering from those psychological residuals of that period of our history. So black people are still dependent on the system for the things that they want. That safety net. It's that safety net. Black folks are not yet ready to cut that umbilical cord that connects us to white racism and has been in place for 400 years.
What advice would you give to like millennials that are trying to make an impact right now? How do we change the dynamic? How do we change the system? What advice do you give to us to like go about making change?
Well, number one, I'm a half step to say this. I am very cautious about sitting our young folks out to go and start their own businesses, which they must, not only without the proper education, but also without the proper commitment to the black community. See, ultimately, whatever we do should to some degree benefit our people. We're the only race in these United States whose personal agendas do not serve the collective benefit of our community. No matter what the Chinese do, 99% of them, whatever they do, somehow, some way, their people going to benefit directly. Same thing with the Arabs, same thing with the European Jews, same thing with the Anglo-Saxon, same thing with the Mexican. It's going to benefit the collective. But we are so psychologically individualistic and self-hating that even if a black man or woman is successful, it often does not benefit the collective because our success, nowhere in that business plan does it include any type of contribution to the community. We are a runaway people. We're a runaway people. As soon as we get a little bit of success, we run away from our people. And so the first thing these young people have to be taught is loyalty to community, because they don't have that. Now, once they get that piece, then next up is when you're talking about entrepreneurship, three things that black businesses don't do a good job of. Number one, market research. When we open up businesses, we open them up without studying the competition. And if we're the only black business, we assume that that's good enough reason for us to open up a shop. It's not a good enough reason because you're the only black business in a predominantly black neighborhood. It should be a good enough reason. It would be if you were Chinese or Arab. Why is it not a good enough reason for you? Because black people are not loyal to black people. So you cannot expect black folks to support you just because you are black. In fact, they're less likely to support you because slavery taught us the white man's ISIS code. So number one, do your market research. Approach your business like a science. Don't just open up a shop and say black people should support me because I'm black. That is not going to work. Black people don't even want to be black, more or less shopping at your shop because you identify as black. So number one, do your market research. Number two, make sure you have an excellent marketing plan. How are you getting the word out about your businesses? When I speak across the country, and of course today I'll be speaking in Chicago in a few hours, it's amazing when I hear people jump up and they say, I have a business and nobody supports me. And then I ask everybody in the room by show of hands, who ever heard of her business or his business? 2 hands go up out of a room of 500 people. The reason you're not getting no business is because you're not marketing to people. You have to put money in. Where's your billboards? Where's your circulars? Where's your radio commercials at? You got to put in to get out. If you don't invest in your business, no one is going to invest in you. And the third thing is customer service. Black people do a horrible job of thanking black people who are loyal to them. If someone is buying from you on a regular basis, they never got a birthday card, they never got a Happy New Year, they never got a Kwanzaa gift, they come into your store, you ain't got no frequent shopping type of a program, you don't even have a customer service number where people can reach out to you and say, I really enjoyed this, or I still haven't received my product. We don't treat black customers well. But guess who do? White folks. They don't even like you, but they know how to treat you when you come into their store. You register, they send you stuff, coupons, deals, makes you feel like you're a part of the family. You're not. They're just exploiting you. They know because they've done their research. They know that if you treat people good, they're more likely to come back. Black people need to learn a certain lesson. You cannot get mad at black folks for not supporting you when you mistreat them and don't show love to your loyal customers.
Hey, Dr. Umar, it's Bradley Sufran from Brockton, Massachusetts, and I wanted to ask you, so you're talking about, blacks getting educated and getting businesses, becoming entrepreneurs, but let's just say in history, we've seen how blacks have done that in the past, Black Wall Street, where we had hundreds of businesses, we had church, we had hospitals, we had it all, and it was destroyed, So my thing is, why are we going to try and integrate to a capitalist system when it's literally formed to be against us? Even if we are to get these businesses, this system is still not made for us to thrive. Don't you feel that we should integrate with the systems that are for us instead of trying to change a system that will never be for us?
Okay. First of all, I didn't mention capitalism, and I definitely didn't mention integration. I'm a Pan-African nationalism, so 2 words you would never hear me talk about is capitalism and integration. Building business is not capitalism. Capitalism is the exploitation of the many by the few who control the mechanisms of economic opportunity. Black people were engaged in business before white folks ever came up with anything called capitalism. So we have to separate financial exploitation from business. Business is not capitalism in and of itself. Capitalism is exploitation and taking advantage of people. It's about monopolies and cornering the market. So we do not advocate capitalism, nor am I advocating integration into it, because you cannot integrate into the white man's Eurocentric system. You have to create your own. Black Wall Street was successful because you were not allowed to participate. They kept you out. And the only reason why they brought a desegregation was so that they could benefit from the black dollar. The only reason why they desegregated public education is to benefit from the black intelligence of the black child. So we don't need to integrate into his system. We can create our own. We already have a separate system. We're already a nation within a nation, but we just don't harness our economic power. $1 trillion of buying power that black people waste every year. In 2016, we spent $600 million on McDonald's. In 2016, $2 billion on Air Jordans. In 2016, $4 billion on alcohol and malt liquor. In 2016, black women spent $9 billion on weave and perm. In 2016, black people purchased 3 times the amount of Mercedes Benzes as white folk, but yet white folks have 3 times the amount of wealth that you control. So we can do anything that we want. Every culture in America is here to build a cultural empire. I don't care what major city you go to, there's a little Italy. I don't care what major city you go to, there's a Chinatown. town, I don't care what major city you go to, there's a Jewish community. And in those communities, they have a hospital, they have a bank, they have a supermarket, they have a school. A hospital, a bank, a supermarket, and a school. The 4 essential institutions of a community. Nowhere in America can you find an African town. Nowhere with their $1 trillion. Absolutely unacceptable. And the reason that is because black folks are not interested in investing in each other. We are intoxicated with integration. And before you can bring about another Black Wall Street, you're going to have to change the thinking of blacks. Because until there's a psychological revolution, until you change the way black people think, you will not change the spending habits, you will not change the values, you will not change the priorities, and you will not change our realities.
Based on the stats that you have, brought up, and I thank you for that very much, Dr. Umar Johnson. I realized that, based on the spending power that we put to waste, it's being put towards escapism and,
yes.
Materialism in order to, have a powerful status symbol. So like, I would love for you to like delve in more on that, for psychology of, having a powerful status symbol and escapism as well, and how that like, plays into how we deal with each other and ourselves in the community and when we look in the mirror as well.
Exactly. You know why we have a black bourgeoisie? The reason we have a black bourgeoisie is because well-educated blacks, well-financed blacks know that no matter how many millions they got, no matter how many billions they got, no matter how many degrees they have, no matter how successful their parents were before them, they will never be treated as equal in this society. They know that. And so what they do, because they can never be accepted by whites, never be treated as equal with whites, they create their own white reality. And they close it off to other black folks who they don't consider to be as powerful or successful or as intelligent as themselves. And they simply monkey and ape and copycat the white social order. That is the genesis of the bourgeoisie. Black people who can never be accepted by white folks. So what we're going to do is we're going to approximate and imitate the white reality as closely as possible to give ourselves a sense of false equality. In other words, the illusion of inclusion, the need to feel equal to, is the driving force behind Black America's conspicuous consumption. What is it about Mercedes-Benzes and black folk? Is this something culturally in our DNA that leads us to purchase more Mercedes-Benzes than anyone else? No, it's a status symbol. By having this Mercedes and by buying this house in the white suburb, I know my white neighbors ain't going to be bothered with mine. I know they don't want their kids playing with mine. I know if another black family moves on this block, they all going to move away because they have the 2 black family rule. Because white privilege and white supremacy dictates that white folks should always have access to services and opportunities that black people shouldn't. I know I'm going to be mistreated. It doesn't matter. I'm here because it makes me feel equal. I know I can't afford this Mercedes-Benz, but I have it because it makes me feel equal. So shopping for black people is a form of psychological therapy. And it's the most expensive type of therapy that's on the market because it is destroying our economic infrastructure as a people because we're not putting our money where it needs to be. We're simply spending our money to give us a degree of psychological escapism and a degree of mental freedom.
Wow. And as this is the condition that is currently going on in throughout the country, there is gentrification and urban removal that is currently happening right under us. The rug is being pulled. So like I've noticed like recently in my area, I don't know if you see it around the country, Dr. Umar, but I see more signs of like we buy houses for sale, and I wonder like where's the funding to put these signs strategically in neighborhoods where there are houses that are rotting, and there are people who are struggling to pay the mortgage and things or the rent and things to that nature. Like I would like to learn more, man, and like tap into your like philosophy when it comes to like what is going on in regards to gentrification in America. How should we look at this, and what shall we do about it?
Indeed. Now, whenever you're dealing with a contemporary issue, you must do this history on it. So let's look at this. Black people were never originally in the inner cities, not in large numbers. We were in the South, we were in the rural sections. Coming out of slavery, we continued to do what? Work the crops. We were agriculturalists. We did that. We were also tradesmen, but we would come into the cities to work. We would go back to our rural and agricultural communities in the evening, and we were largely concentrated in the South. What happened was during World War I, because they didn't let blacks fight in World War I, they sent the white boys off to fight. So they did what? Came down to the South and begged black folks to come up to the North to assume the jobs that were now vacant because the white men had to go fight a war for money and oil and resources. So we came up, we assumed the jobs. But the problem was when the war ended, they laid us off. They laid us off and gave the white boys the jobs back. They did the same thing in World War II. So the only reason why we're concentrated in Chicago and concentrated in Detroit and Philadelphia and all the major inner city areas in the Midwest and on the East Coast and even on the West Coast is because we were asked to come. And this is where white folks don't want to take responsibility for the quote-unquote ghetto, because the ghetto is not a black creation. The ghetto is a white creation. So when the white boys came back after the jobs, after prison and assumed the jobs, after the war and assumed the jobs, they laid us off. So that's when the welfare programs became necessary. That's when President Roosevelt came out with his New Deal, with all these Social Security and all these different programs begin to be created between the 40s and the 80s to help poor black folks who were struggling, not because they didn't want to work, but because they could not find work. Today, what is the biggest issue? 75% of black youth are unemployed, 50% of black men are unemployed systematically, and black men have been kept unemployed for a very, very long time. So anyhow, because there were so many blacks concentrated in the cities, white folks said what? We're getting out of here. When they came back from the war, they said, y'all got all these black folks up here, okay? Y'all had to give them our jobs, but we're back now. Send them back. They said, well, we can't send them back because they didn't move up here now. Well, guess what? Since you can't send them back to the South, then you know what you better do? You better send me out to the suburbs. And that's exactly what they did. The Federal Housing Authority, FHA, the same FHA y'all was talking about with Section 8, they created a program to give poor whites and working class whites low-interest federal loans that allowed them to move out to the white suburbs. Out there with doctors and lawyers. They could not afford it, but because the government stepped in and gave them white privilege, they were able to move out the ghetto, and that's how we got trapped in the ghetto. Now, when black folks tried to get the same loans put out to the suburbs, they said, of course we can't do that because white folks don't want you out there. White folks don't want you out there. We didn't bring you up here to help you move into the suburbs. We brought you up here to just use you for the work. And so when we tried to buy up the ghettos where we live, guess what they said? They redlined it and said, we don't give out loans in this area because it's too depressed and we don't think it's worth investing in. That was a setup. You know why they didn't let you buy up Detroit and Chicago and Philadelphia? Because they knew the white folks would be coming back. The only reason why white folks ran to the suburbs is to get away from you. Now, here's where we messed up. The black bourgeoisie, instead of buying up the black community so we could control it and prevent gentrification, we never bought it up. We started chasing white folks because we so in love with white folks. So guess what we started doing? So when we graduated from college, what do? Get a mortgage in the suburbs. So white folks is like, damn, there's nowhere I can go where black folks ain't going to follow me because we are in love with white folks. So guess what they decided? In 1990, during Bill Clinton era, and it intensified in 2000 with Bush, they said, we going back home. We going to take back our inner cities. We should have never gave them up. Damn those blacks. They going to have to get out the way. And guess what? When they decided on the gentrification program in the 90s, which kicked in Y2K 2000 under Bush with his election, they were able to come back and snatch the ghettos back. Why? Because we didn't own nothing. We were Section 8. We were projects. We were public housing. We were redlined from getting loans in the ghetto to buy the properties that were available. So gentrification was planned years ago. White folks always knew they was coming back home. And now we're being kicked out the inner city because we got comfortable being tenants and not being landlords.
Hey, Dr. Umar, I want to ask you, how can a European power structure fall?
How can it fall? Here's the thing. All black people got to do is do right for themselves. It'll fall anyway. See, we sort of realize something. Most of the success of all the other races in the world is contingent upon the backwardness of Africa and African people. There's Chinese people who can't wait to come to your community to open up a stop and go. In China. Don't even speak English, but they've been told by their family members, but if you come to one of these black ghettos and open up a stop and shop and stay open late and sell loose cigarettes and ginger ale and Newports and some dirty food, you can get rich off of it. You got Arabs doing the same thing. Come to Detroit, get one of these gas stations. You'll be filthy rich in a couple of years. East Indians, come here, get one of these hotels. Jews, come up here and open up a small community thing. You are the opportunity for the whole world. It's insane because we can't be the opportunity for ourselves, but we're the opportunity for everyone else. All you got to do is stand, and the white man automatically falls. Do you realize financing poverty is $1 billion industry? Financing poverty, Section 8, halfway houses, prisons, jails, therapy for drug addicts, homeless shelters, abused women's shelters. Servicing poverty is $1 billion. You got white folks with so-called not-for-profits, because ain't no such thing as a not-for-profit, because nobody does anything for free. You got white folks with these not-for-profits who are making billions of dollars off of black folks' refusal to solve their own problems without outside white help. All you got to do is stand, my brother.
Hold on, when you say
fall.
stand, though, stand in what sense? Because there's when you say stand, it could be interpreted in different ways. I want you to
say that again. I didn't hear you.
I said, in what way do you mean to stand? Because right now,
in what way do you mean? You got blurry. Your voice got blurry.
My voice got blurry. I said, in what way do you mean to stand? Because it seems like black people are in an abusive relationship with the Europeans right now. It's like
they are,
and it's like we don't love ourselves enough to stand up and get ourselves out of the situation. So when you say stand, what do you mean by that?
We feel hopeless. We feel hopeless. Black people are psychologically defeated. We're psychologically defeated. The average black person, I don't care if he's a hotepper, an integrationist, a nationalist, a Moor, a Hebrew, Nation of Islam, God and Earth, Bible-toting Christian, Sunni Muslim, Jehovah's Witness, I don't care what he is. 99% of all black folks are psychologically defeated, which means we do not believe it's possible to build ourselves up and come out under this mess. And what do people do when the boat is sinking? You saw Titanic. What do people do when the boat is sinking? They jump off. Running to the suburbs, marrying a white woman, cooking your hair up to look like a white woman. I mean, look at it. Now the white woman is the idol for all black folks. The black man can't wait to get one, and the black woman can't wait to look like one.
You know, it's funny, and now they're like, you know, they're reintroducing braids and saying that it's a new style. You know what I mean? So like they're sort of like adopting some of the trends and styles that black women have already naturally, you know, expressed.
And you know what? I actually have a question for you, Dr. Umar Johnson. And again, I've been like this, I feel like this has been my theme throughout the entire show. So it's really about family units, right? And why is it so difficult for, you know, black people, for us to like, you know, instill those family units and maintain them? You know, what happened to two-parent family household? I'm sick and tired of seeing single family parent household. Like, why is it so difficult for us to learn how to interact and build with one another?
Powerful question. Couple variables that got to be considered when you're talking about the breakdown of the black family. Number one, and these are not in order of priority, I'm just giving them to you. I'm going to give you 5 quick ones. Number one, the rampant expansion and support of the LGBT movement in the black community. Black people are contradictory and hypocritical. You cannot claim you want to see two-parent families on the one hand, and then on the other hand, support same-sex relationships. You cannot build family when you have same-sex relationships because 2 women nor 2 men can have a child. And this is an issue that we don't want to talk about. The same woman who will say, I can't find a good black man, will be running around hanging out with 10 gay ones at the same time. And then say, I don't want my son. I'll put it on the table.
Yo, go ahead, talk that talk.
I'll put it on the table. So there's no, listen, the black woman has the least amount of opportunity of getting married in this country. Only 25% of black women will ever get married, and half of them won't stay married. So if you want to build strong, legitimate black families, we got to get our sisters married. How the hell are you going to get our sisters married when you're pushing a lifestyle that's going to do what? Recruit more black boys into the homosexual movement. You cannot be for strong two-parent families and be for LBGT, because black LBGT is the cancer of the nuclear black family. So that's number one. Number two, you cannot separate economics from marriage. Marriage is a business contract. And the reason why black men were married from slavery up until the 70s, in slavery we were married, after slavery we were married up until the 70s. What happened in the 70s? We just talked about it earlier. In the 70s, that's when the mass unemployment and layoffs of black men started taking place. That's when they deindustrialized the high schools, started sending everybody to prison. When did we get special ed? Special education was created in 1975. It kicked in 1980. When did we get ADD and psychiatric meds? 1980. They engineered this. The reason the decline of the black family began in the 80s because the decline in black male employment began in the 80s. No man is looking to get married if he cannot take care of his family, because the main responsibility of a man is to what? Provide and protect. He can protect. He don't need a job to protect, but he needs to provide. And then America came with the third weapon of mass destruction. They deliberately started over-educating and over-employing black women and under-educating and under-employing black men. So now you're upsetting the apple cart, because the black woman is the only woman in America who out-earns and out-educates her man. You're the only one in the country. And so then you propagate to the black woman that the reason why the black man is unemployed is because he's a lazy, shiftless, irresponsible Negro. And a lot of successful black women have bought into that mentality. A lot of them have their own personal histories of abuse by black men, physical, sexual, emotional, okay? And so that mindset works against us building, because you have a sister, and this is only a few, it's not all, okay? But you got a lot of educated sisters who say, I don't need no man. What the hell I need a man for? I'm coming across young sisters on the college campus. Dr. Umar, I ain't need no husband. I'm going to go to one of the egg banks and get me some sperm and have my own. It's nonsense. They have convinced a lot of black women that they don't need men. Then you got this feminist movement that's pushing undercover lesbianism. Black women falling for that. And then you got a lot of black men who are so insecure that they can't tolerate a sister who makes more money or has more education. You got a lot of black men who want to relegate black women to a sexist role of making babies and cooking my food. The black woman is beyond that at this point.
Right.
She wants her own business and her own career, and she should be able to have that without you feeling like she's taken away from your manhood.
Absolutely.
So we got psychological disabilities on the man's side, we got psychological disabilities on the woman's side, and it all started with the black man's inability to find work, which was a product of the mass incarceration culture that began in the 80s. Whenever we talk about the decline of black marriage, we never tie it to the economic reality. Black women want to get married? Start standing up for black men. Black women should have went to Barack Obama. Let me tell you something that would have been possible. Black women should have went to Barack Obama while he was in office and said, excuse me, Mr. President, our men don't have jobs. And we know that they're not going to be looking to marry us unless they feel like they can be men. We need you to do something to get these brothers some jobs. If black women would have done that, Obama would have had to act. You want to know why? Because black women voted for Obama more than any other constituency in America. Y'all could have used that. Y'all could have used that to get these brothers employed and get y'all some husbands. But unfortunately,
but my issue though, I feel like
everybody, the elders, the bourgeois, the men, the youth, instead of holding Obama accountable, we fell in love with him. And that's why he took everything our ancestors fought for, every civil rights bill, every voting rights act, every single piece of legislation that benefited black folks in the past 100 years. Your black president gave it to gays, women, and illegal immigrants. And now we in the Trump era. We worse off than we started in the Obama era. Stop falling in love with politicians and hold them accountable.
But here's my issue. I feel like as black women, we've been doing that for like years, supporting our black men and protecting them. But I don't feel like they've really been doing the same for us. At least not like, well, I'm not going to say all of them, but just a certain percentage, you know, so it gets a little difficult, you know, especially when you're trying to build with a man or trying to bond with a man. It's hard when they're in that savage mentality. You know what I mean? There's just like, oh, how many women can I get with? You know, I feel like men are not really, their mentality is not the same. They're not about building anymore. That's my issue, especially when, okay, regardless of whether I have all these degrees, but I'm legit here trying to level up with you, trying to help you grow, but you don't want my help. And it seems like when you do make it, you know, who do you head to? Oh, I'm gonna marry a white woman. I'm gonna marry a foreign girl. It's all about foreign. How about us black women? When is our opportunity to be valued? When are we gonna get celebrated? When are we gonna get honored? You know what I mean? So that's my issue.
Why can't we be on the same?
And I agree with you, but I would also say it goes both ways. I would say brothers are re-victimizing sisters, and sisters are re-victimizing brothers. There is no trust, but it all goes back to the decade of the 70s and the 80s. That mass unemployment culture that mass drug culture and that teenage pregnancy culture. That teenage pregnancy culture began in the 70s. We got to understand something. After they assassinated Dr. King in 1968, the United States government began to create every type of Machiavellian program and strategy they could to make sure black folks would never rise again. Special ed was part of that. Homosexuality was part of that. Abortion was part of that. Abortion goes back to the 20s, but it was intensified in the 70s and the 80s with the advent of family planning and bringing sex education into the schools. So we have to look at how this whole thing we dealing with, y'all, it was strategized, not in the black community, but it was strategized for the black community. Can we overcome it? Sure we can. But in order to do that, black men got to commit to black women, and black women got to commit back to black men. We ain't got nobody else. Ain't nobody coming to save us if we don't save ourselves. The black man is the only man the black woman got, and the black woman is the only woman the black man has. And we need to understand that. A house divided cannot stand. And right now, yo, we don't look good as a race. We are losing, and we are losing bad, and a lot of it is our fault, because although the white man comes up with these things, we got the power and the resources to solve them. Look, I'm a school psychologist. Y'all know I work in the schools, evaluating for special ed, fighting to keep black kids out of special ed, off meds, and away from ADHD evaluations. And you know what's so sad about this fight? And I gave y'all the spending quotes on what we spend on, you know, hair and sneaks and all this other stuff.
Right.
We have the money to give every black child in America the type of education they need. Black America should have its own school district. Why don't we? Because our priorities are not in order. We can talk about how the schools don't like black kids all day long, but you know what the truth is? The truth is we don't like them too much more ourselves.
That's so true. That's so true, because it seems like, for example, like just from what I've seen in schools when I was growing up, whatever, like all the kids who had behavioral problems, they're so quick to send them out, like, you know, oh, leave my classroom. Like, why aren't we digging further? We don't know what's going on in their family background, you know, their family situation. We don't know what's causing all this, but we're so quick to just kind of like, you know, push them away instead of like wanting to assist them. You know, why are we sending them to detention instead of some, like, I guess some sort of like alternative, like, I guess a meditation session or something, you know?
I'm in Chicago. 7 kids were killed. Excuse me, not 7 children. 7 people were murdered, I believe, the day before yesterday. That's the most people that had died in a single day in quite some time here in Chicago.
Wow.
When you talk about the causes of violence, black on black, do you realize there used to be Italian on Italian? There used to be poor Jew on poor Jew. There used to be poor Irish on poor Irish. We're not the first men to engage in fratricide. Whenever you take away a man's ability to earn a decent living and take care of his family, you deal with fratricide. You got black boys who are homeless, black boys who are fatherless, black boys whose mothers don't even want them. You got black boys who are sexually abused, physically abused, academically abused at school. This is pain. This black on black crime is the manifestation of hurt, disappointment, abuse, abandonment. I know what the causes of this is, but all you hear Donald Trump talk about, all you hear Rahm Emanuel talk about, all you hear the mayor of any city talk about is how we need to control behavior of black males. Send in the National Guard. Send in the Army. You know why, y'all? Because they don't want to deal with the causes. Because guess what? They are the cause. That's why the government never says, let's sit down and talk about why black men are killed. Have you ever heard that on CNN? Did it ever come out of Don Lemon's mouth? Did Wolf Blitzer ever utter that? Has even Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson ever mentioned that? Hell no. Because they keep on pushing a narrative that the black man is nothing but a monster who was born to kill, when the truth of the matter is they know that what's going on in the streets of Philadelphia, Chicago, Detroit, Houston, LA, and everywhere else is a direct outgrowth of government policy, a policy of miseducation and economic castration. The mother of all violence is miseducation, and the father is economic castration. Miseducated boy is then prevent him from being able to get a job. He will become a killer. He will become a thief. He ain't got no choice. Criminals are not born. Criminals are made. The real criminals are in Washington, D.C.
Hey, Dr. Umar, I want to ask you, so with all the knowledge that you have and all the teachings that you do, it's clear that you have a lot of influence. Now, what is the action that has been behind the influence that you have? you can mobilize so many people. But I'm not really sure on what you have been doing, because you've been educating. I know you travel the world, and I know you educate wherever that you go. But what is the actual moves that you've been making to change the condition of black people?
Okay, I'll give you 5 of them. Number 1, the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy, which will be opening on the anniversary of the Nat Turner Revolution, August the 21st of 2018. We hope to have the school by this August the 21st, 2017, and everyone is invited to join us in the Nat Turner land, Druryville, Virginia. We will be celebrating Nat Turner on his day, August the 21st, on the land where his revolution took place, because that will be our next total solar eclipse. And in African culture, eclipses are very important. That's a sign that times are changing. So we're going to celebrate that this August 21st. Next August 21st, God willing, we'll have the school. So that's number 1, the education of our children. Number 2, every Tuesday morning, I host a free Black Parent teleconference to help Black parents fight to save their children in schools. It's absolutely free. They don't pay. They call every Tuesday, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 to 8. Sometimes we're on longer because sometimes we get more parents some days than others. The number to that is 857-232-0158, 857-232-0158. And the access code for the parent call is 870-864-POUND, 870-864-POUND. The third thing, I have the Black College and Consciousness Tour. Every year where I take 11 to 17-year-old black boys and girls, we go to different black colleges, but we also call it the Consciousness Tour because we take them to significant places related to the black experience in America. Last year, in addition to going to Cheney and Lincoln and going to Howard and Coppin and Bowie and Hampton and Norfolk State, they went to the Harriet Tubman home where she lived at, Frederick Douglass home where he lived at, went to the graves of both of those ancestors. We took them to the Apollo Theater, the Malcolm and Betty Shabazz Center, which is where Brother Malcolm was murdered February 21st, 1965. We went to Ferncliff Cemetery to pour libations at the grave of Dr. Ben, Khalid Abdul Muhammad, Paul Robeson, James Baldwin, Betty Shabazz, young Malcolm Shabazz. They're all in the same cemetery. Then we took them to the Black African Holocaust Museum in Philadelphia, the Great Blacks of Wax Museum in Baltimore, the Benjamin Banneker House, the Underground Railroad, the Nat Turner Land, Dorney Park, Great Adventures, Paintball. They have a wonderful time learning and having fun, but also getting that information about college. And then the fourth thing is I have the National Independent Black Parent Association, an organization that was started this past May to organize black parents to fight against academic racism. 7 areas: special ed, school discipline, school policy, social support, finance, homeschool parent advocacy. So we got about 20 chapters that are about to launch on the 1st of April. Okay, if anybody wants to be a part of that, because we need those in every school district in America, the first national movement for black parents, they can get in contact with me to do that through drumarjohnson.com. And then the 5th thing that I'm working on is a repatriation task force to the mother continent, which is Africa. What we're trying to do is accumulate money, and we're going to buy a large piece of land in one of the African countries, and we're going to start building a community for Africans from America who want to go back home. That's right. We haven't had a major repatriation movement since Marcus Garvey 100 years ago. So I'm putting that together now. So those are just 5 of the major things that I'm working on when I'm not on stage raising the consciousness of the people.
No, I see. I definitely see. I feel as if one of the ways that we're going to change the reality of black America is by creating a political culture, a culture that's solely geared towards changing the political reality of America when it comes to black America. And I definitely agree with some of the things that you're doing, but I feel as if there's so much more that we all can be doing, especially you as a black leader. I feel as if you can be mobilizing people to actually be against or start taking strides to change the system. I like how you're educating, you're exposing the youth to so many different things, but you need to I feel as if one of the things that you need to do is expose them to their reality, and then expose them to ways that they can change it. Not ways that they can integrate within it, but ways that they can change it by mobilizing.
You cannot change the system. You either destroy them or you create the system.
And then if that's the case, then you need to teach them to do that, because we are not going to move forward as black people if we continuously stay within a system that's there to destroy us. If destroying it is what needs to be done, then that's what needs to be taught. And it might not happen now, but it might happen in 100 years.
Our own system. We don't need to destroy white supremacy, as I said earlier. All you have to do is do what you need to do as a people to create your own cultural empire, and white supremacy will automatically fall.
But brother, how will that work when we've tried in the past and it has gotten infiltrated by the FBI?
It was not done from a pan-Africanist platform. You have to have international allies in order to build up anything successful without it being torn down. The reason why Black Wall Street in Tulsa, in Rosewood, in Charleston, in Wilmington, and all the other Durham, North Carolina, the reason why they failed, they had no international allies. Why did Fidel in Cuba survive America? Cuba is no larger than most of the states in America. 90 miles away from the 90 miles. An hour away in America could not topple Cuba. Why? Because Cuba had international allies.
From what country?
Brother Russia.
From Russia.
Told America that if you mess with Cuba, you got to mess with us. We have to start thinking like a nation. The problem is our politics is not based on international affairs. We keep on operating like black Americans within America. And if you keep doing that, you're going to be destroyed. It has to be Pan-Africanism or it will perish.
Well, you also have to take into account the fact that there's a lot of people who are ignorant and don't even identify as Pan-Africanism. They don't identify as an African. So what do you do to those people? Those people need, I feel as if something new, something that's not already there, something that they can relate to, especially when it comes to the millennial generation. What you're saying is all great, but when it comes to Pan-Africanism, they don't care. How do you reach those youth?
Here's the thing, and this is important for you all as young people to understand this now. Our revolution, like no other revolution, like all other revolutions, will not be a utopia. It will not be a utopia. When those white races met in Philadelphia to build that United States Constitution and create this country, they fought, they shot each other, people got beat with canes. It was a bloody affair creating the United States Constitution. It was not utopic. Some people had to be disinvited. Some people had to fight outside, and people were killed in duels during that process. So we need to understand that everybody not coming along for the struggle, bro. Find the people who care. The ones who don't, leave them. Whenever I go to a city, I'm in Chicago today, one of my favorite places to come, okay? I'm going to be looking for people who have the heart and the commitment to help black folks. A lot of the folks who are going to come out today, they want to hear the message, but they don't want to be a part of the movement. So you got to find the people who care enough. Most black people are psychological casualties of this war. You have physical casualties, people who die, and you have psychological casualties, people whose minds have died. The average black person will fight you more for trying to get them away from white folks than they would ever fight white folks on your behalf. So find the people who matter. I am not on a crusade to change how every black person thinks. I'm on a crusade to find those who are salvageable and ready to make moves that are critically relevant. And only amongst those am I trying to change mindset. I'm a therapist. When someone comes to me for therapy, you know what my first responsibility is? To evaluate and determine who wants change and who does not. Because if you ain't ready to change, if you ain't ready to stop drinking that alcohol, what you coming to see me for? What you paying me for when you ain't ready to change? I can't fix you. I'm only your guide to help you fix yourself. It's the same thing with the Black Revolution. Find those who are ready. But if you're going to spend your life trying to convince people that what they're doing is wrong, you will be spending the rest of your life doing that. I would argue that this generation of blacks, us collectively, not just the youth, the whole black America today, this generation of black folks is the worst generation we've had in this country. It is the absolute worst. We're selfish. We're scared of white folks. We want to imitate white folks. We still praying to a white Jesus. We don't want to invest in black folks. We don't have no infrastructure. Everybody's off for themselves. We are psychologically, although we're economically the richest, although we're educationally the most elite of any group of blacks that America has produced, psychologically we're the most devastated. I don't have a lot of faith in the adults. That's why I'm building the school, to make that generation of young black revolutionaries a whole movement. Could you imagine if you had 500 black children who are all on the same page as to what it is we need to do?
Well,
that's our problem. We don't have any commonality of purpose. Put 10 black folks in the room. They're going to argue all day over what needs to be done. Half of them still in love with white folks, so they don't want to hear nothing about that. Another 3 of them are Christ out on white Jesus, and they believe we ain't got to do nothing but wait for Jesus to come. Another one going to be crazy off of Muhammad and Islam, and so if everybody become a Muslim, we'll solve our problems. And only one person in that room will have the political and economic vision to know what we need to do.
With all due respect, Dr. Umar, with all due respect, I disagree. Only because I am around a lot of black, and what we talk about, what we are about, we're about change. Every single person, they see the reality. You ask a black person now, if you come up north to Brockton, which you definitely should, you should come build with us and get to know the youth out here, and not even just the youth, but the community, because we're really progressive. But in Boston, in Brockton, in Randolph, around our area, you see a lot of young black folks not only taking it upon themselves to learn about their history, but they're speaking up in classes. They're not taking the bull that the teacher's teaching them. They're out here really trying to make changes. They're being progressive. They're gaining the knowledge. They're respecting their women. I don't think we're the West generation. I think we're the generation that's going to make the change for the future. I think we are the hope of the future. And I feel as if more elders like you need to find ways to have a better, a more positive view on the future when it comes to us being a part of the change, because this is the problem that we have. We have elders who doubt our ability to do for self and to continue the revolution that was already left down for us from Malcolm and Martin, from the Black Panthers. The elders don't have faith that we can continue it. And you need to have faith, because we need to continue it. If we don't, who will?
Let me say this. As a Pan-African nationalist, I have complete faith in us as a people to fix this problem. But where I'm going to differ with you and others is on how that gets done. I'm not alien to Boston. I was just there a few months ago. I know the community rather well. And in every community, whether it's Boston or not, you have a black bourgeoisie, and you have a lot of black youth who are waiting to be drafted by that bourgeoisie. So I'm very honest and straightforward about the way things are. Can we change it? Sure. Your job as a young brother, a young leader, is to change the minds of your generation. That's what your job is. My job, okay, is to continue on the path that I'm on, which is very critical, which is creating that alternative independent educational movement for the youth. As Dr. John Henry Clark said, one of our master teachers who's now an elder and was a great friend and tutor of Malcolm X, okay, we need a revolutionary generation of black youth who have been properly raised, properly socialized, and properly trained, okay? I work with youth all the time. In fact, I probably have the largest youth support base of any scholar in America. I don't think there's another scholar who has more youth that come out and support than that audience today. 75% is probably going to be youth, because that's the relationship I have with those under the age of 25 and even younger than that. But the truth of the matter is, psychologically, I am a realist, and I know the mindset of black folks, young or old, is we are in love with white people. We are in love with integration. We are in love with multiculturalism. We are in love with the LGBT movement. We are in love with anything but ourselves. I'm not giving up on that generation.
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree.
But what I am saying though, is my focus. I determine my focus, no one else. My focus is on building those schools so I can take babies from their parents' house, put them through the right system of preparation. So by the time that they are your age or my age, they're already ready and know what they need to do. I am only looking for those who are salvageable and have the consciousness to do the work according to the platform that Marcus Garvey laid out. I'm not interested in nothing else. Nothing else. I'm not interested in Jesus freaks, Muhammad freaks. I'm not interested in integrationists, LBGTs. I'm not into that. And a lot of your generation is. It's your job to get them ready for what I need them to do.
I agree. It is my job. It is my job to gather up the young people and like my generation to educate them and get them aware and then get them mobilized. But one thing I can say,
but I tell you what, we could do a conference in Boston if y'all want.
It has to be in Brockton.
Brothers and sisters, right here on this line. You know, we can get the what's the theater I was at? What's the black theater up there?
The Strand Theater.
Black on.
The Strand Theater.
Brother Umar, has to be in Brockton, Massachusetts, the city of champions. That's where we're from. And then we have a base out there.
We can do a youth conference up there.
Cool.
That'd be perfect.
Amazing.
I'll take care of the expenses. We just need to put it together. Let's talk about that. And we can get all the youth. It won't just be for Boston. We'll target Boston, but they can come from wherever they want to come.
Cool.
And we can take a weekend, may even do a week-long Black Revolutionary Leadership and Entrepreneurship Conference.
Okay.
Or something like that. We can make that happen in this year, 2017.
How will I get your contact?
Serious. We can do it.
That would be perfect. I just want to thank you once again, Dr. Umar Johnson, for giving us this amazing interview. Like, you gave us a lot of necessary things to think about and, like, want to change. And I definitely want to thank our other guests as well. Brianna, I want to thank you for being coming on here and telling us about real estate and teaching us. So I really appreciate that. And of course, our youth in the building. We hope you learned some things, and we hope you guys enjoyed yourself. And of course, Bradley, I really appreciate you for being here and asking these hard questions. So, Dr. Umar Johnson, we're going to talk a little bit more after the interview so we can switch contact information and get this going. But Waz, would you like to say anything, my brother?
Absolutely. Like Dr. Umar Johnson, I admire your work ethic, your consistency. It's absolutely helping many communities. You're a beacon of hope in many ways. I look at Bradley, who you have been speaking with, as a beacon of hope in many ways as well. And I'm more than willing to connect the dots. And we embrace you with open